Hey, happy summer, everyone. It's meteorologist Joe Martucci. June 1st, technically the start of climatological summer, our warmest 3 months of the year. And join with me as we do at the beginning of every month, New Jersey State climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson, who also just celebrated a birthday along with myself. We're both May 13th people. We're going to talk about the birthday. We're going to talk about that really crummy Memorial Day weekend, that really hot weekend before that Memorial Day weekend, and everything else that had to do with the month of May. So sit tight. Hope you enjoy. This is Dave Robinson. All right, and joined with us, Dr. Dave Robinson, New Jersey State climatologist. Dr. Robinson, we just wrapped up our birthday month. How you feeling?
I'm feeling young. That's
Good.
all I can say. Feeling young.
Good. Now, what did you do on May 13th, being both of our birthdays?
Let me see. I worked.
So did I.
Since it was a work day, but I did jump on my bike and did about 10 miles on the Delaware Raritan towpath right near home. So I took a break in the afternoon. That was a huge concession for me to take a break, but I made sure I got out there for a good bike ride because it was a beautiful day.
Right. I mean, it was a beautiful day, actually. And I remember, I think we talked about this last month. You don't particularly remember your birthday weather, what the weather was like. I will fill in for you here. It was about 5 degrees warmer than May 13th, 2020. And it was just the same amount of sunshine. So same sun, a little bit warmer.
All right. I have no reason to doubt you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So, when I think of the month of May, I think streaky comes to my mind. I feel like we had these streaks of, in the early middle part of the month, it was below average for a long period of time. Then we were above average for a long period of time. And then we had Memorial Day weekend, which we'll get into. But do you think that's a fair way to call the month of May?
Streaky, roller coaster. The way I probably got to frame it with the monthly statement, just because I always try to do something a little different. It was kind of a tease. We had two teases. We were teased that summer was upon us because we had 4 days when the state had 90-degree weather, which is a fair number for the month of May. And teased because we were really teetering on early level drought before the heavier rains of the past weekend. So it was kind of a tease. Are we going to have a drought? Kind of a tease. Is summer already here? And then we could see that rug was pulled out from under us in a good sense with the rain we got over the holiday weekend, and a kind of a bad sense in how darn cold it was over the holiday weekend.
Yeah. You want to jump into that? Should we start with Memorial Day weekend?
Well, that's going to stick in people's memory banks when it comes to this past May and this summer, at least the kickoff to the summer.
So let me preface by saying, and hopefully I'm not giving away too much information. You were in Cape May on Memorial Day weekend, and as welcome to South Jersey. For the past couple of days. How did you like your Memorial Day weekend being at Exit 0?
Yeah, some welcome. Thanks a lot, folks.
Should have came the weekend before.
Hey, I was there last August, and the weather was beautiful. It was cold. It was windy. It rained, but the food was great. The wine was good, and sticking in there through Monday. Monday was a beautiful day, unless you wanted to chase an umbrella down the beach, which I saw someone do at one point. But it wasn't a day to park on the beach. It was a wonderful day to walk on the beach. It's always great to be in Cape May, my favorite place on the Jersey Shore.
Well, yes, and we do welcome you, and we apologize for the bad weather here. At least you had Monday, so that was pretty much the only thing that saved the weekend from being an F. We do our Shore Summer Report Card. I'm now doing this for the 4th summer in a row. I gave it a D+. The weekend as a whole. Does that sound fair to you, being in Cape May for the weekend?
Yeah, well, for the whole weekend?
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And in fact, I do Friday as well. And Friday did rain, and it was very cloudy.
Because I was going to be a more generous grader and say C for a couple of reasons. One, we were out in town, walked into town Saturday. It was just drizzling a lot in the afternoon. Sunday, we were out and about a little bit more, and it was okay. So there, there were episodes of rain, and frankly, Cape May was the driest part of New Jersey
Yeah.
when it came to this past weekend. If people can believe that, who are listening from Cape May, it was the driest spot in the state.
Yeah, I think totals were probably, I think they were close to an inch for the weekend as a whole.
Inch and a half,
Inch and
whereas
a half.
most of the state was between 2 and 4 inches.
Right. Right. So you got, you were at least a little bit lucky. Could have been worse. But I was at the shore this weekend. It was a lot of rain and drizzle and wind. But anyway, so going back to Memorial Day weekend, it felt more like, just temperatures alone, more like March rather than late May. We had high temperatures at Atlantic City Marina, 56 degrees both Saturday and Sunday. AC International, 54 degrees both Saturday and Sunday. Millville was 54 on Saturday, 56 on Sunday. All just to say is it was chilly. We actually broke record cold high temperatures
Mhm.
both Saturday and Sunday at the airport, and then Millville and the marina broke them on Sunday here. Now, as I emailed you a couple of days ago, I wanted to get a little creative, and I did a little bit of research, and it actually was the coldest Saturday and Sunday weekend in the largest theoretical extent of the summer season. From May 22nd, that could be the earliest Memorial Day weekend Friday, to September 7th, which is the latest Labor Day Monday. It was the coldest in Millville and Atlantic City International Airport. Um, of course, as you said in your email reply back to me, the weather has no limits to Saturday or Sunday. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, and also if you're going to break a record for cold, you're going to break it in the first weekend of
Also
the
true.
summer.
It's
The
true.
odds would favor. No, it was when you have temperatures 20, 25 degrees below normal, more so with the high temperatures than the lows, although lows were below average too. So we had some record daily mean temperatures, but no record low temperatures because the clouds kept it a little warmer at night. But that when I believe Christmas Day and St. Patrick's Day were warmer than this
Hmm.
past week, this past Saturday and Sunday. So I mean, you turn back the clock on the seasons. It was tremendously unusual, and you did it for 2 consecutive days, which is also impressive.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get those record minimum highs for a day, and then things turn around. And then, of course, you just have to look back a couple days before that. It hit 90, and then the weekend before, as we'll talk about, no doubt,
Yeah.
it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, but some people said, was that unusual to have those extremes? And the fact is, when the climate system gets wound up, you're often prone to extremes, and you can shift from one to the other pretty quickly. Other times you get more of a benign, closer to average pattern. So it is not standard fare, but it's not uncommon to go from one extreme at one end of the spectrum to an extreme on the other end of the spectrum, because the weather systems are so wound up.
Let me ask you about Memorial Day weekend. I think many people here who are listening in New Jersey know Memorial Day weekend isn't always summery. We live that year in and year out. How far south would we have to go to actually go from Memorial Day to Labor Day with good beach weather?
That's a great question. I would say you'd have to go south of Hatteras, probably into South Carolina, Georgia,
Hmm,
down that way, and certainly Florida. I mean, they're already
right.
locked in. But I'd say down to about Hatteras, you could get those wedges of cold air coming down the coast, these backdoor cold fronts, or these late season nor'easter type storms. So yeah, there's no guarantee. And now I can remember some very hot Memorial Days too.
Sure.
As a kid, I remember marching in a parade as a scout and standing there at the ceremonies and seeing a soldier just literally boom go over from the heat. I just
Jeez.
memory, it just came to mind thinking of some very hot Memorial Days.
Right. Yeah, it is spring. We're still in climatological well, we were in climatological spring. So you can get these ups and downs. It's nothing unusual for us here. I just want to go off on a side tangent though, because I just don't understand how people can go to Cape Cod or Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard on Memorial Day weekend. If it's like this here, over there, it's those kind of days could be even cooler and wetter, and that cooler air can linger deeper into June.
Yeah, I
I've
mean,
never
there's no
been there, so
question.
I can't complain. It might be a wonderful place.
I know. I mean, well, and I've been up at Cape Cod on Memorial Day weekend on multiple occasions in the past. The fact is, when you get these backdoor cold fronts, the fronts that come in from New England down into New Jersey instead of from the west or northwest into New Jersey, these are common in the spring. And you might warm up for a day in Boston, and boom, in comes the backdoor front. We might get 2 warm days here in Jersey, and then bam, it comes in. And the further south you go, the less impacted you are by
Sure.
these fronts, and it just stays warm. So
Right.
we had a couple backdoor fronts in May,
Yeah.
cool us off. This was a little different than a backdoor front. This was just a storm that took its time clearing the area and just pumped in some air from the northeast.
Oh yeah.
No question about that.
Last thing about Memorial Day before we move forward. The coastal flooding. We actually did have multiple rounds of coastal flooding. Most of it was minor, which is good. Although that Saturday night high tide did get to moderate in spots. We've been pretty lucky with the coastal flooding so far this year. I mean, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the last time we had widespread coastal flooding was in early February with that nor'easter.
Yeah. No, the beaches really had a good winter. They didn't get pummeled in the fall with late season storms, tropical systems that could ruin the defenses for the upcoming winter. And then we didn't have a lot of really strong nor'easters come up the coast. So we enter the summer with the beaches in pretty good position to grow, as beaches tend to do in the summer, but they're starting at a pretty good point. So yeah, that's really good news. And now the nor'easter season is behind us. So, the tropical season has begun.
Yes, it
And
has.
that's where we have to watch out for the beaches getting pummeled between now and, say, October. And then we start looking again towards the tail end of the tropical system and the front end of the nor'easter
Right.
season, a la Sandy, which was a little bit of both back there.
Don't say that yet. Don't say that yet.
Yeah.
We're just getting started with hurricane season. And actually, a little plug. Our last episode of the podcast, we had Jordan Jones from Colorado State University, one of the forecasters she was on. We also have Jim Eberwine, my other meteorological parent. He's coming on for our mid-June episode to talk more about the local impacts of hurricanes. So be sure to check out the previous one and the next one. And then, of course, this one too, of course, that you guys are all listening to.
They sound far more entertaining than this one.
I don't know about that.
And really good people. The Colorado State crew does a nice job. And of course, Jim Eberwine, he knows the pulse of the coast and emergency management. There's just no one better.
No, he is. I mean, God, it's like when we did the podcast, we actually pre-recorded it, and a half hour went like that. I mean, and we talk all the time, but a half hour just went like that. It was incredible. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. Then the other side, we're going to talk about the rest of May here. This is the Something in the Air podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to Something in the Air podcast, brought to you by the Press of Atlantic City. New episodes, first and third Wednesdays of every month. And as we do the first Wednesday of every month, New Jersey State climatologist, Dr. Dave Robinson, he is going to tell us all about what happened this past May in South Jersey. Let's talk about the temperatures. We were saying at the beginning, it was streaky or roller coastery. So when you add that all up, where were we?
When you add it all up, it averaged pretty close to normal. So if you just look at the monthly numbers going back in the past, you wouldn't know that we were in the 90s and we were in the 50s. So everything kind of evened itself out in the temperature department. I think the airport was a couple tenths below average temperature-wise, and the marina was over a half degree above normal. The interesting thing, because we were so dry for a good portion of the month, the daytime highs were above average, but the nighttime lows were somewhat below average. So you had a large, what we call diurnal temperature range, which might normally be 20 degrees on average between the low and the high. This is more like 25 degrees. this month. So, but it all, again, you lump it all together and it all averaged out pretty close to normal.
Yeah, the airport was 2/10 of a degree below average, and then the marina was 9/10 above average. So, like you said, right there.
Yeah.
Looking at the middle of the month, I believe that in the Pine Barrens, there were actually a few spots that had a frost in the middle of May. I just want to know if you could speak to that. What's our frost situation or frost-free situation like for not just South Jersey, but New Jersey as a whole?
Yeah, there were a couple mornings, including the 13th, when it got pretty cold. And as a matter of fact, I'm looking at some notes up in Berkeley Township, which is up in the Pinelands, away from the coast.
Yeah,
Um, it was they got pretty darn cold. They were down to 32 on the 16th, and that was the coldest spot in the state.
really.
And it's the last time any part of the state hit the freezing mark this year. So it looks like the Pinelands are going to have the latest freeze of the year, even beating out those cold valleys in Northwest Jersey or up at High Point. So
Take
that's
that.
kind of an interesting honor. Last year, it was Walpack up in that Northwest Valley, had a freeze on June 1st. But doesn't look like we're going to see that this June as we go
Right.
in the next week or two. It's going to be getting too mild. So it looks like Berkeley Township in the Pinelands up in Ocean County is going to come in as having the latest spring freeze in New Jersey in 2021.
Has that happened before? Where the Pinelands have had the later freeze as opposed to Northwest corner of the state?
You
Would you know?
know, I honestly I haven't looked at it, and our weather records. These are stations out of our network which only go back a dozen, some cases 20 years. Um, but it's happened. In fact, there was a year where Berkeley Township tied for the cold. Just a couple of years ago, they tied for the coldest temperature the entire year, and the
Oh,
only reason they tied was because just before midnight on December 31st of that year, Northwest Jersey, Walpack equaled the Berkeley reading. So it took for the whole year, Berkeley Township had held the record from the previous winter until just before midnight on the 31st of January. So they
swooping
had
in
a
at the last second.
so
Swooping
they
at the
had a
last second.
sure,
No, I'm
yeah.
sorry, good.
Yeah. So I mean the fact is, and anybody in the cranberry business and whatever knows, those bogs can have frost and you remember you don't have to have the air temperatures that we're talking about are measured about 6 feet off the ground. And it can be multiple degrees colder right down there at the surface of the earth. So you can have frost in the hollows of those cranberry bogs in June, even in August in some rare cases, certainly in September, before they flood them out for harvest.
Right.
So you got the sandy soils and you've got some depressions in that area, and the heat of the day just escapes right out to space really quite easily. So a very unique climate of the Pinelands. It truly is.
Yes, it is. And we just did a Weather in the Pinelands Facebook Live event earlier in May. We were talking all about that. And you say the sandy soils, and the one thing that comes to my mind is the rainfall, because that sandy soil can just let that rain zoop right through. And we did have some wildfires as well, notably one in Little Lake Harbor Township. But let's just talk about the rainfall. We'll get to the wildfires in a second. If we didn't have Memorial Day weekend, and you're just random guess, or I guess as best you can, how dry would we have been for the month if it was dry Memorial Day weekend?
Oh, well, it would have been certainly in the top 20% for dry
Right.
conditions in May. I hadn't gone and looked at the numbers yet, but we were running an inch and a half for the month around the state, and it was dry enough that the National Drought Monitor, which is a map by committee made each week, put New Jersey into abnormally dry conditions statewide with the map on the Thursday before the holiday weekend. Now, full disclosure, it was my recommendation that the National Drought Monitor go to
Mm,
D0 in consultation with colleagues at the National Weather Service, regional and local offices, and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. I touched base with them and said, this is what I think should happen. Some of them got back to me and said, we concur. So this is a team effort, but it was quite clear that we're getting abnormally dry. That's considered what's on the map D0, not
Right.
the D word, not drought, but abnormally dry. And then, of course, along came the weekend rain, and I can give you a little heads up, all of New Jersey is not going to be in D0 as this week's drought map comes out.
This is breaking
I'm not
news. Look at us.
I'm not
Breaking
supposed
news
to
on the podcast.
divulge things before Thursday morning, and for very good reason, because agricultural concerns use this and all.
Right.
But not knowing when this is going to air.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is Wednesday and we're recording this and it will go out on Wednesday. So it's all happening today. So
just a little hint, D0 has not disappeared from New Jersey. So don't anyone let their guard up. And I think that is really important to state, because there's some areas of the state that did a little better than others over the weekend. There's some areas of the state that went into the wet period in a little worse shape than elsewhere. So don't let your guard down, I should say. We could slip back in this. There's some hot weather expected to come up. Once we get past this week, it looks like there may be a stretch of dry weather coming back. And we're just at the beginning of summer. So
yeah,
keep an eye out. But boy, as miserable as it was for a holiday weekend, that rain was liquid gold.
yeah. I think, given that it rained on Memorial Day weekend, I think there weren't many people who were like, you know what? I wish this rain just didn't come. We definitely needed the rain. Plants were hurting. People were messaging me, hey, I don't want to water my garden for the 10th day in a row. Can we get some natural rain? We wanted the same thing at our place. We just put out some new planters out, and we wanted to get some natural rain rather than us, pouring the bucket over and making it rain artificially. But let's go ahead. Yeah.
Well, we're going to look around the South Jersey region for the month.
Yeah. For rainfall.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
It was kind of interesting because Atlantic County was the driest part of the state in May. Atlantic County down to Cape May County, let me say. That was the driest area of the state, but you just have to go up the coast past LBI up to northern Ocean County, and it was the wettest part of the state in May, because they had some heavy rain back past Wednesday, and then they got the heavy rain over the weekend. But from LBI south, it was drier than elsewhere in the state, even as you go west into South Jersey and up to the north. For instance, the driest place in the state in May was Long Beach Township. 1.5 inches of rain, that's it. Yet you go up the coast to Brick, where we have multiple observers, and they were all very high, and the highest had 7.08 inches of rain. Same county. The driest part of the state this month, the driest station in the CoCoRaHS program, and the wettest station in the CoCoRaHS program. And how many miles?
25?
Yeah, Brick from Long Beach Township. Now you go into Atlantic, it was Hamilton was a 2.62, had the least, and Folsom had 4.15. So that was a pretty good spread. Real narrow in Cape May County. The driest spot was Ocean City at 2.32, and the wettest was just down in Wildwood Crest at 2.94. So a very narrow spread there. So a tale of multiple areas along the Jersey coast back in May. And let me also say, before I forget, many thanks to our CoCoRaHS observers. I looked up the numbers. We had 24 observers reporting from Atlantic County, 17 from Cape May County, and 20 from Ocean County. Now, of those observers, about 2/3 of them didn't miss a day. Others report maybe only when it rains, or maybe they were away or whatever. So kudos. And it's so important at this time of the year as you can see by the variations in rainfall.
Yeah.
It's so important that we have this wonderful network of volunteer observers.
Yeah, and if you want to sign up, you can go to cocorahs.org. So COCORAHS.org. Or if you email me, I might even put you in touch with him. Where am I pointing? I'm trying to get the other way. Kicking my finger. There we go. Him over there. We've done that a couple of times, but yeah, incredible difference. And I was just going to say, in the past 30 days, so this is from May 2nd to the 31st. This is from NOAA. I'm just looking at this now. Cape May County is still somewhere between 11 to 25% below average. Ocean County was 26 to 50% above average. And Atlantic County was right in the middle. So feeding it right to your point, the northern part of the Jersey Shore, much wetter than the southern part. And I was going to say, my last question, do you think this is Mother Nature's way of dividing the North and the South?
Oh no, I'm not touching that one at all.
You were alluding to it, I think.
Well, let me talk this D0. The first part of the state that got into D0 is up in the north, in Sussex, northern Passaic County. And now the driest area is essentially Cape May over into Cumberland County, with a little bit of dry weather up around Mercer County as well. So right now, your two drier areas of the state are the furthest north and the furthest south. So equity there, equity.
Okay. New Jersey is an equal opportunity weather maker, I guess. I don't know what it's called.
Always something interesting with, from the coast to inland, from Cape May to High Point, always something interesting. Little trivia for High Point, you realize on Saturday, the high temperature at High Point Monument was 42 and the low was 38. So if you think you were cold in South Jersey, and the winds were howling up there as well. I mean, you can, for a small state, there's all sorts of weather wonders out there.
Sure. And hey, last thing, it snowed a little bit in New England this weekend, correct?
It did, up in Vermont, in Stratton. I saw some pictures from there, and up at the higher elevations, I saw some snow. Not unprecedented, but certainly not an every year occurrence.
Absolutely. All right, so let's wrap it up here. Anything else you want to get to before we close out?
No, I just say, welcome to summer. Have a wonderful summer. I wish I could tell you what was in store. We know long-range forecasting, we've talked about it before, is very difficult. And if there's a season where it's most difficult, it's the summer, because the weather tends to become disjointed across the hemisphere during the summer. So you don't get a signal from, say, the tropics up to here or elsewhere. So, we don't know what's going to go on. We've had a lot of warm summers of late. I expect the same. Precip wise, we dodged a drought bullet last summer with the tropical systems. New England didn't, and they had drought. We'll see how that spills out. It looks like we have above normal tropical season. So certainly some surprises in store as we go into the next couple of months, but hopefully, all in all, a great summer for everyone.
Sure. Yeah, looking forward to it. And for the latest climate data in New Jersey, you can go to njclimate.org for the climate data. And if you want to go look at the most recent weather data, go to our site at njweather.org. Beautiful. Well, we'll wrap it up for our May recap. We'll come to you probably sometime right before 4th of July, and we'll get you our June recap. Hopefully, we're not talking about rainy and 50-something degree weekends at the beach every weekend. I think being it's June 2nd, looking forward to this weekend, doesn't look to be the case, so we're good there. But we'll come back to you at the end of the month, recapping the month of June, and then stay tuned. 2 Wednesdays from now, on the 16th, we have Jim Everwine. We're talking about South Jersey and hurricanes this year. All right, this is the Something in the Air podcast. We'll be back with you again in 2 weeks. Until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.